Welcome to Spectrum News within the week, coming to you live from Oyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital. My name is Ofonono Joseph. Let's take a look at the top stories. President Tinubu signs Electoral Act 2026 into law. Governor Moeno dismisses oil well transfer claims, cites Supreme Court judgments. In other stories, South Korea court sentences ex-president Yoon to life in prison for 2024 insurrection. Stay tuned for details of these stories and more in a moment. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on the news within the week. We begin the news this week from the national scene, where President Bola Tinubu on Wednesday signed the Electoral Act 2022 Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2026 into law, following the passage of the bill by the National Assembly on Tuesday, after months of deliberations. Tinubu signed the bill at the State House on Wednesday in the presence of top government officials, including the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, and the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila. He said the essence of democracy is to have very solid discussions committed to national development and nation building, essential for the stability of the nation. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has issued an executive order (EO) to safeguard and enhance oil and gas revenues for the Federation, curb wasteful spending, eliminate duplicative structures in the sector, and redirect resources for the benefit of the Nigerian people. According to a statement by the presidential spokesperson Bayo Onanuga, the President signed this EO in pursuance of Section 5 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. The executive order is anchored on Section 44 sub 3 of the Constitution, which vests ownership, control, and derivative rights in all minerals, mineral oils, and natural gas in, under, and upon any land in Nigeria, including its territorial waters and exclusive economic zone in the government of the Federation. The directive seeks to restore the constitutional revenue entitlements of the federal, state, and local governments, which were removed in 2021 by the Petroleum Industry Act, PIA. In the meantime, President Bola Tinubu and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz have resolved to improve bilateral relations between Nigeria and Germany with a view to strengthening collaboration in the security, power, and railway sectors. In a telephone conversation on Wednesday afternoon, the two leaders also expressed their willingness to cooperate in creative arts and skill development. Tinubu and the Merz, according to a statement by the presidency, spoke on the Presidential Power Initiative, during which the Nigerian leader indicated that Nigeria would require assistance with power transmission. The German Chancellor, the statement said, pledged that Siemens would be ready to assist in that regard, while Deutsche Bank would be willing to finance the project. Elsewhere, President Bola Tinubu within the week urged the Senate to consider and confirm the nomination of Ambassador Ismail Abba Yusuf for appointment as the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NACON. The President also asked the Red Chamber to confirm the nomination of Rear Admiral Jamila Abubakar Marafa, retired from Adamawa State, as the National Commissioner of the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC). The requests were contained in two letters the President transmitted to the Senate and read by Senate President Godswill Akpabio during plenary. After reading the letters, Akpabio referred the nomination of Yusuf and Marafa to the Committees on Foreign Affairs and Electoral Matters for further legislative work and to report back in 1 week. In another development, Vice President Kashim Shettima within the week urged Nigerians to use the concurrent observance of Ramadan and the Christian Lenten season to strengthen national unity and demonstrate practical compassion toward fellow citizens. In a statement on Wednesday, Shettima described the period as an opportunity for both spiritual renewal and collective nation building. The Vice President, who said the sacred month required more than religious rituals, called for active engagement in addressing the nation's seemingly formidable challenges. Shettima also described Ramadan as a journey of the soul and a time for deep reflection, for self-purification, and for embracing the true essence of Islam: peace, patience, sacrifice, and service to humanity. Away from that, the federal government within the week ordered the closure of areas covered by mining license 11810 in the Wasa local government of Plateau State. This followed the deaths of villagers allegedly mining in a pit containing gaseous emissions. According to a statement by the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development, the license is operated by Solid Unit Nigeria Limited, owned by Abdullahi Dan China in Zurich. In a condolence call to Governor Caleb Mufwang, Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dele Alake, sympathized with him over the loss of the innocent citizens who died while trying to earn a living. The minister has also dispatched a team of officials and investigators led by Permanent Secretary Yusuf Yabo to probe the remote and immediate causes of the incident and recommend sanctions. From the Red Chambers, the Senate within the week passed the Electoral Act 2022 Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2026. Before the passage, there was a rowdy session as the upper chamber resumed proceedings with a demand for a division over Clause 60, raised by Senator Naya Abaribe, ADC, Abia South. The Senate President Godswill Akpabio stated that he believed the demand had previously been withdrawn, but several opposition senators immediately objected to that claim. Citing Order 52 subsection 6, the Deputy Senate President, Barau Jibrin, argued that it would be out of order to revisit any provision on which the Senate President had already ruled. This submission sparked another uproar in the chamber, during which Senator Sunday Karimi had a brief face-off with Abaribe. The Senate leader, Okbayemi Bamidele, then reminded lawmakers that he had sponsored the motion for rescission, underscoring that decisions previously taken by the Senate are no longer valid. He maintained that, consistent with his motion, Senator Abaribe's demand was in line. Akpabio further suggested that to call for a division was merely an attempt by Senator Abaribe to publicly demonstrate his stance to Nigerians. During the division, Akpabio directed senators who supported the caveat to stand. Meanwhile, he then asked those opposed to the caveat to rise as 15 opposition senators stood in opposition. However, when the votes were counted, the Senate President announced that 15 senators who were not in support of the proviso, while 55 senators, voted in support of it. Also, the Senate has amended Clause 28 of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, slashing the notice of election requirements by 60 days from 360 days to 300, leaving the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, the flexibility to fix the election dates between December 2026 and January 2027. The amended Clause 28 states that the Commission shall not later than 300 days before the day appointed for holding of an election under this bill, publish a notice in each state of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory stating the date of the election, and b. appointing the place at which nomination papers are to be delivered. The amendment was effected yesterday during the clause-by-clause consideration of the reworked Electoral Act Amendment Bill after the Senate leader, Okpeyemi Bamidele, raised a motion on the rescission and recommittal of the Electoral Act 2022 Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2026. Okpeyemi underscored that upon critical review of the passed bill, the 360-day notice requirement prescribed in Clause 28 could result in the scheduling of the 2027 presidential and National Assembly elections during the Ramadan period. According to him, holding elections during Ramadan could negatively affect voter turnout, logistical coordination, stakeholder participation, and the overall inclusiveness and credibility of the electoral process. Meanwhile, as part of measures to tackle insecurity in some parts of the country, the Senate within the week called for an upgrade of the joint security operation in Niger and Kwara State. It mandated the Committees on Defense, Army, Air Force, Police Affairs, and National Security and Intelligence to conduct a joint assessment of the security situation in the North Central region and report back within 4 weeks, with clear recommendations. These followed a motion sponsored by Sani Musa, APC Niger East, in the wake of the alleged killing of over 50 people and the abduction of several women and children in Konkoso District, Borgu local government area of Niger State. In his argument, Musa regretted that the North Central region has increasingly witnessed organized attacks on rural communities, farmlands, and settlements, threatening food security and national stability. The lawmakers thereafter further raised concern that the persistent pattern of attacks on remote communities indicated gaps in intelligence coordination and deepened the humanitarian crisis in the region. The upper chamber, which observed a 1-minute silence for victims of the attack, also urged the strengthening of joint security operations between Niger and Kwara states to dismantle cross-border terrorist networks. Now to the Green Chambers. Chairman of the House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee on the Review of Tax and Export Incentives, Waivers and Exemptions, James Faleke, has said that Nigeria was losing about 8 trillion naira annually to waivers and concessions granted to organizations and individuals by the federal government. In a statement in Abuja, Faleke said between 2023 and 2026, the federal government projected total revenue foregone from tax incentives at 12.4 trillion naira, while the tax to gross domestic product (GDP) ratio remains at only 10.6%. He, however, assured that they will continue to give periodic reviews of the exercise and be transparent in the investigation. According to him, the exercise is not a witch hunt and should not be misconstrued as an attempt to undermine legitimate businesses or government support programs, but intended to strengthen the administration of incentives, safeguard public funds, and restore confidence in policies designed to support investment and export-led growth. Talking education now, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board JAMB within the week declared that there will be no extension of the registration deadline for the 2026 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination UTME, warning prospective core candidates to complete their enrollment before February 26 or risk missing the examination. In a notice, the board announced that the sale of e-pins, a mandatory requirement for registration, will close at 12 midnight on Thursday, February 26, 2026. Meanwhile, registration at accredited computer-based test (CBT) centers for candidates who have already purchased their e-pins will end 2 days later on Saturday, February 28, 2026. Recall that JAMB had disclosed that over 1.5 million candidates have successfully registered nationwide. Despite this impressive figure, the board revealed that registration centers across the country are operating at barely 30% of their daily capacity, raising concerns that many eligible candidates are yet to take advantage of the ongoing exercise. Meanwhile, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board JAMB within the week said pin vending for the 2026 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination UTME will close on Saturday, February 28. The board announced this in a statement by its public communication advisor, Dr. Fabian Benjamin, in Abuja. The statement said, as of Tuesday, February 17, the board had successfully registered over 1.5 million candidates for the examination. This year's UTME is scheduled to hold from April 16 to 25. Back here, Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Omoeno within the week reassured citizens that there is no cause for alarm over reports alleging the transfer of oil wells, stressing that no propaganda or sentiment can overturn two valid Supreme Court judgments affirming the state's ownership of the oil wells, including the reported 76. Fielding questions from Government House correspondents on his arrival at the Victor Atai International Airport, the governor expressed strong confidence in the leadership of President Bola Tinubu, noting that the president places a high premium on the rule of law. According to him, two Supreme Court judgments give Akwa Ibom State the rights to the oil wells, stressing that the state is not sharing maritime boundaries with Cross River State but with the Republic of Cameroon. Governor Eno urged the people of the state to remain calm, emphasizing that no propaganda has any effect in the face of the two Supreme Court decisions establishing Akwa Ibom State's ownership of the oil wells. It will be recalled that the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission RMAFC had officially refuted reports alleging that the oil wells were ceded to Cross River State, describing such claims as false and misleading. Government House correspondent Jane Wan reports corroborating the Commission's rebuttal. Governor Eno reiterated the facts are sacrosanct and cannot be ignored. Still to come in the news. Forex for business travel soar by 366% to $672 million. Stay tuned for details of these stories and more when we return from this break. Welcome back. Many thanks for staying tuned. Now let's continue with the rest of our news stories. In Africa, Somalia's government on Wednesday announced it is making progress in its long-running fight against the Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab militant group. Officials have announced they have reclaimed territory from the militants that had been under their control for years. Omar Ali Abdi, Somalia's state minister for defense, said there were new locations and settlements that were liberated from these militants that were under their control for the last 18 years. According to analysts, U.S.-backed airstrikes have also contributed to the government reclaiming territory from Al-Shabaab, which once controlled swaths of the country. Still in Africa, France and Algeria have agreed to restore security cooperation during a visit to Algiers by French Interior Minister Laurent Nunez, marking the first sign of a thaw in diplomatic ties. After meeting with President Abdelmadjid Tebboune, Nunez said both sides had agreed to reactivate a high-level security cooperation mechanism. The visit took place against the backdrop of thorny relations between France and its former colony, frayed since Paris in 2024 officially backed Moroccan sovereignty over the disputed Western Sahara region, where Algeria supports the pro-independence Polisario Front. We move now to the foreign scene, where a South Korean court on Thursday found ex-president Yoon Suk-yeol guilty of leading an insurrection for his short-lived attempt to impose martial law in December 2024, sentencing the former leader to life imprisonment. Recall that Yoon abruptly declared martial law in a televised address in December 2024, saying drastic measures were needed to root out anti-state forces. The 65-year-old hardline conservative was later impeached, arrested, and charged with a litany of crimes ranging from insurrection to obstruction of justice. Prosecutors had sought the harshest penalty on the insurrection charges, urging the Seoul Central District Court to put Yoon on death row during hearings in January. South Korea has an official moratorium on capital punishment. The last prisoners were executed in 1997, with a death sentence effectively banishing Yoon to life behind bars. Still on the foreign scene, the White House warned on Wednesday that Iran would be wise to do a deal with the United States as President Donald Trump once again hinted at military action. The two sides recently resumed indirect talks mediated by Oman after Trump repeatedly threatened military action against Iran over a deadly crackdown on protesters last month. A previous attempt at negotiations collapsed when Israel launched surprise strikes on Iran last June, beginning a 12-day war that Washington briefly joined to bomb Iranian nuclear sites. On Wednesday, Trump again suggested the United States might strike Iran in a post on his Truth Social site, with a U.S. military buildup underway in the Middle East. Meanwhile, Britain's annual inflation rate has eased in line with expectations in January, as official data showed chances that the Bank of England will cut its benchmark interest rate next month. The Office for National Statistics said the Consumer Prices Index fell to 3.0% in January, from 3.4% in December. The data reinforces the Bank of England's guidance that inflation is set to cool towards its 2% target in the coming months, as easing energy bills help to offset rising water bills and other elevated costs. Reports say Prime Minister Keir Starmer's Labour Party has struggled to revive Britain's economy since winning a general election in July 2024, having raised taxes in its two annual budgets. Still on the foreign scene, Australia within the week barred a citizen linked to the Islamic State IS group from the country for up to 2 years. The person is among the group of 34 Australian women and children who tried to head home after being released from a Syrian camp earlier this week, only to be turned back by Syrian authorities for technical reasons. Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke said the ban was issued on advice from security agencies, adding that the other 33 people do not meet required legal thresholds to be banned. On our business news, more Nigerians gained access to foreign exchange, boosting their spending on business travels by 366% to $672.27 million in the first 9 months of 2025, up from $144.4 million. The figures contained in the balance of payment section of the December 2025 Central Bank of Nigeria quarterly statistics show that spending stood at $231.7 million in the first quarter of 2025, rose slightly to $234.56 million in the second quarter, and moderated to $205.97 million in the third quarter, bringing the 9-month total to $672.27 million. In contrast, business travel expenditure was $77.33 million in Q1 2024, fell to $46.62 million in Q2, and further decreased to $20.24 million in Q3, culminating in $144.19 million for the same period. Business travel refers to expenditures made by Nigerian residents when they travel abroad for business purposes, such as attending meetings, conferences, training sessions, or other work-related activities. Still in business, the concession agreement formalizes the implementation of a nation digital platform for sustainability reporting aimed at strengthening transparency, accountability, and data-driven regulation across Nigeria's corporate ecosystem. Speaking at the signing ceremony in Abuja on Wednesday, Executive Secretary and CEO of the Financial Reporting Council, Dr. Rabiu Olowo, described the development as more than a routine agreement or cosmetics, saying that through the platform, the FRC would standardize sustainability closures, monitor compliance in real time, detect risk and misstatements, and strengthen enforcement through data-driven oversight. According to him, the platform marks a shift from fragmented and manual sustainability reporting to a technology-enabled framework that enhances credibility and trust in corporate disclosures. Meanwhile, Nigeria's oil sector has lost an estimated 1.76 trillion naira in potential crude oil revenue due to its failure to meet the production quota set by the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries from January 2025 to January 2026. Data from the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission revealed that the country's crude oil production fell below the OPEC set target of 1.5 million barrels per day in 9 months in 2025 and repeated the same in the first month of 2026, even as global crude prices remained moderately strong. According to the figures, Nigeria produced 1.54 mbpd in January 2025, exceeding its quota by about 40,000 barrels per day. Production also slightly exceeded the quota in June and July, with daily outputs of 1.51 mbpd, translating to surpluses of approximately 10,000 to 30,000 barrels per day. Still talking business, the president and chairman of Dangote Industries Limited, Aliko Dangote, within the week, called on the federal government to urgently convene a national retreat to resolve Nigeria's persistent electricity crisis, warning that widespread power outages could undermine the country's industrialization drive and economic growth. Dangote made the appeal at the official national launch of the National Industrial Policy 2025 in Abuja, themed "From Policy to Productivity, Implementing Nigeria's Industrial Future." The policy emerged against the backdrop of a weak manufacturing sector, which, due to poor electricity supply, high production costs, limited access to finance, infrastructure deficits, and heavy reliance on imports, has been constrained. Dangote stressed that without stable electricity, Nigeria would struggle to create jobs, drive industrial productivity, or achieve sustainable economic growth. Still to come in the news. NFF clarifies reports of FIFA verdict on Nigeria, DR Congo dispute. Stay tuned for details of this story and more when we return from this short break. Glad to welcome you back. Now let's conclude on the rest of our news stories. In health, the joint health sector unions JOHESU have kicked against proposed executive amendment bills seeking to amend health regulatory laws, stating that the bills would grant medical and dental practitioners regulatory control over other healthcare professions in Nigeria. In a statement signed by the National Chairman Kabiru Minjiber and the General Secretary Martin Egbanubi, JOHESU described the move as an attempt to impose an apartheid regime in the health sector. The union stated that the bills seek to override the regulatory powers and functions of other health professional agencies, warning that it would spell doom for the health sector. Still in health, the chairman of the Association of Community Pharmacists Ogun State Branch, Wale Akintunde, has cautioned that poor handling of the proposed sachet alcohol ban could worsen public health and security risk rather than reduce them. Akintunde warned that while concerns about youth exposure to alcohol are legitimate, enforcement strategies must be carefully designed to avoid unintended consequences that could undermine the policy's objectives. Reports say several protests have been held against the ban on alcoholic beverages packaged in sachets and small plastic or glass bottles with a capacity of less than 200 milliliters. While the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control insisted that the move was aimed at protecting children, adolescents and young adults from the harmful use of alcohol, other stakeholders, particularly distillers, said the ban may wipe out 1.9 trillion naira investment and render no fewer than 5.5 million Nigerians jobless. In the world of sports, Arsenal's Premier League title challenge suffered a major blow as they squandered a 2-goal lead and conceded a stoppage-time equalizer in a damaging 2-2 draw at rock-bottom Wolves on Wednesday. Mikel Arteta's side were on course to move 7 points clear at the top after Bukayo Saka's early opener and Piero Hincapié's second-half strike put them in control at Molineux. But Arsenal collapsed in the closing stages as Hugo Bueno reduced the deficit before Ricardo Calafiore turned Tom Edozier's shot into his own net in the final seconds after a mix-up between goalkeeper David Raya and centre-back Gabriel Magalhaes to leave the visitors' shell shut. For a second successive league game, the Gunners had failed to hold onto a lead following their 1-1 draw at Brentford last Thursday. Still in sports, the indomitable Lionesses of Cameroon have set up camp in Monday for the double-header friendlies against the Super Falcons of Nigeria. 25 players have been called up to the training camp. The players were drawn from the Cameroon Women's Championship, with the addition of few foreign-based players. The friendlies against the Super Falcons will hold on Saturday, February 28 and Tuesday, March 3. Both games will serve as part of the Lionesses' preparation for the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations. Meanwhile, veteran Manny Pacquiao will face former light welterweight world champion Ruslan Provodnikov in an exhibition on April 18. Pacquiao, 47, ended a 4-year stint of retirement in July when losing by majority draw against WBC welterweight champion Mario Barrios. The 8-weight world champion called for a rematch after that defeat, but has since switched his direction of travel and will compete in an exhibition bout. Pacquiao and Provodnikov, who retired in 2016, will fight in a 10-round exhibition at Thomas and Mack Center in Las Vegas. Still in sports, the Nigeria Football Federation (NFF) within the week dismissed rumors regarding a decision from FIFA concerning Nigeria's protest against the Democratic Republic of Congo (DRC) over allegations of fielding ineligible players. The controversy arose after Nigeria's Super Eagles were eliminated by DR Congo in a penalty shootout during the World Cup playoffs for the African zone last November, ending their chances of qualifying for the Intercontinental playoffs later this year. In response, the NFF lodged a formal complaint with FIFA, challenging the eligibility status of certain players from the DR Congo squad. However, the NFF has now confirmed that FIFA has not rendered any judgment on the issue. We move now to entertainment news, where popular TikToker and content creator Habib Hamzat, widely called Pella, within the week claimed that his colleague Kataefe recently advised him to start smoking. Speaking during a live stream, Pella explained that Kataefe claimed that smoking would make him more energetic during live streams. He claimed that Kataefe admitted to him that he smokes before going on live streams. Pella solicited the opinions of his fans on whether he should consider Kataefe's advice or not. Most of his fans advised him against smoking, stressing that it can be addictive and have many health implications. Still on entertainment, the duo of Nigerian singers Tems and Burna Boy have broken their tie with South African group Sitha as the African artists with the most Billboard US Hot 100 entries. The trio were previously tied at 7 entries each, but Burna Boy and Tems earned new entries on the chart this week through their features on J. Cole's album The Fall Off. Bounce Road Blues, featuring Tems and Future, debuted at 34, while Only You with Burna Boy debuted at 78, bringing the Nigerians' total to a joint 8, the most by any African. Lastly, in the news within the week, actor Timini Abuson's new film, Love and New Notes, has broken the box office records, earning 106 million naira in its opening weekend, making it the highest-grossing Nollywood film of 2026. The film, directed by Kayode Kazum, is a romantic drama set during Nigeria's 1984 currency change, exploring themes of love, ambition, and personal growth. It stars Timini Abuson, Odunlade Adekola, Sophie Alakija, Eniola Badmus, and Toluwani George. And that's all we have for you at this time. Kindly follow us on all our social media handles and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website at spectrumtvlive.ng. You have been watching Spectrum News within the week. My name is Ofonono Joseph. Enjoy your weekend. Good afternoon.